Tonight on CTV, hear about a heated debate between the ASCSU's presidential candidates.
I'm going to make sure everybody knows what ASCSU is, what ASCSU does, and what ASCSU can do.
Like I said, I'm the only candidate that has spoken to City Council about U+2.
Right now, all we need is that push to get rid of U+2.
Then hear about where the fate of TikTok currently lies.
And is anybody's March Madness bracket still doing okay during this year of upsets?
All that and more starting right now.
Good evening, Rams. I'm Naomi Hillmer.
And I'm Bella Walser. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our top stories tonight: after 2 years, one of the most violent deaths related to domestic violence in Fort Collins has come to an end.
18-year-old Danielle Hopton finally got justice after she was beaten to death by her ex-boyfriend, Stephen McNeil. On February 6th, the two met at a friend's apartment, and it was in the parking lot where McNeil beat Hopton to death.
The judge said that by the time medical personnel arrived on the scene, Hopton was almost unrecognizable.
McNeil pled guilty to a second-degree murder and assault. The assault charge was back in December of 2020. That also involved Hopton. McNeil will spend almost 50 years behind bars.
Hopton's family has spoken publicly about the absence Danielle's death has caused them.
Her family said that she was gorgeous, selfless, caring, loving, and kind. Danielle spent most of her time volunteering for the Larimer County Humane Society and had a passion for animals. Her mother said that she was set to graduate from CSU in the spring of 2024.
Fort Collins police also arrested a serial robber in northern Colorado. But what police services did not expect was that this suspect is a teenager.
That's right, a teenage boy is currently facing 5 felonies and 2 misdemeanors. The suspect used a BB gun to steal a car and rob 2 gas stations within the area.
The unidentified teen was apprehended by police after crashing a car near Riverside and Mulberry. The suspect threatened a woman to get in the car shortly after crashing it and took off on foot until caught. They are now booked in Larimer County Jail. Now we are going to pass it over to our weather forecaster, Adam Carlson, to hear about this week's wild weather.
Thanks, guys. Colorado is known for its hectic weather, and tonight is no exception. So let's jump right in. Current conditions, we just have 51 degrees, and it's a bit cloudy out with humidity at 36 and wind at 15 miles per hour. Now, on Monday, many students woke up to an unexpected surprise. Monday's snow day was a shock to many as we got 10 inches of snow in some parts of Fort Collins. However, as the week progressed, the snow was quick to begin melting, granting us the 60-degree weather we had today. Now, overnight lows is very chaotic, so we're going to use this as a quick way to run down all the weather warnings in Colorado. AQ stands for air quality, and that just means that you should be aware of what the air is in your area. The red labels mean red flag warning, low humidity, high winds, and the fire watches in Colorado Springs and Lamar mean just more extreme versions of that with even more dry weather and windier weather. In both Lamar and Alamosa, we see dust storm warnings, meaning that your visibility could be as low as a quarter mile, and it's just a little sketchy outside with all that dust in the air. Finally, in Vail and Telluride, we have some winter weather warnings, just to stay alert with how much snow you could be expecting. Craig's at 23, and Fort Collins and Sterling also are not suffering from any of these warnings. Now, tomorrow's forecast, we have 51 as our high, 29 as our low. It's going to be fairly windy tomorrow. Not as bad as some of the other spots in Colorado, but 26 miles per hour is about what we can expect with 44% humidity and sunset at 7:24. Now, heading into the weekend, we can see that Saturday and Sunday are actually really nice out. 60s as our high, 30s as our low, and nice and sunny out. Monday, 59, so a little colder and a bit cloudier. And then Tuesday, that snow is going to return, but Wednesday, hopefully things will start heating up for the rest of that week. And that brings me to the end of my weather forecast for you all tonight. Despite Colorado's hectic weather all across the state, Fort Collins seems to be having one of the best weekends yet. Stay safe, Rams.
Thanks, Adam. We have breaking news coming out of the ASCSU Senate chamber. Speaker of the Senate and presidential candidate Nicholas DeSalvo has stepped down as Speaker of the Senate. Claims were made against DeSalvo surrounding ableism. An event was planned without the proper accommodations set in place for students with disabilities. Furthermore, DeSalvo did not send out the weekly newsletter via email. Instead, he put all materials in the ASCSU Slack channel, meaning not everyone had access to the documents for the meeting. DeSalvo discussed the issues and willingly stepped down as Speaker. Let's take a look.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I will step down as chair willingly. The 48-hour rule is an arbitrary rule that this body has set up. There's no federal law in the ADA.
Point of order. It is an official accommodation for students with disabilities. You are discriminating against people with disabilities by trying to argue this. This is the precedent set. If you would like to dispute this, you may take it up with the Student Disability Center.
DeSalvo will still be running for president of the ASCSU.
Abolishing U+2, diversity, and napping stations on campus. These were some of the hottest topics during last night's ASCSU debate. Presidential candidates Nicholas DeSalvo, Mia Ritter, Rithik Correa, and Ashton Duffield participated in the annual presidential debate last night to advocate for their candidacy alongside vice presidential running mates. The Associated Students of Colorado State University, or ASCSU, controls millions of dollars of student fees and has a large impact on the university as a whole. But one of the key issues during their presidential debate this week was students' lack of knowledge over the student government.
I'm going to make sure everybody knows what ASCSU is, what ASCSU does, and what ASCSU can do.
Despite this, each candidate strives to be the voice of the students and make changes to better the community. This includes U+2.
Like I said, I'm the only candidate that has spoken to City Council about U+2.
Right now, all we need is that push to get rid of U+2.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Not just my own identities that are important, and it's all of our SDPS offices, and that's something I've had a lot of collaboration with.
And mental and physical health.
It starts for advocating for better rotations for counselors.
How to help whoever it is that we are helping get the napping stations.
I am the most well-versed in what mental health resources we have on campus.
The vice presidents also advocated for why students should elect their team over their running mates.
One of the things is collaboration with student fee boards.
I think it's real tangible changes and big projects.
I am one of the few people maybe on stage that have done projects with ASCSU and has had complete follow-through.
I feel like we bring kind of a fresh perspective to student body government.
But the competition is close.
Debate. Thank you all for coming, and make sure to vote on RAMREB through April 3rd to April 5th. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your night.
The decision on who the next ASCSU president and vice president will be is ultimately left to the students. Voting opens April 3rd through 5th on RAMWeb. And while the presidential ticket is a hot topic among ASCSU, we cannot forget about the Speaker of the Senate debate that took place yesterday evening.
There are two first-year senators who threw their hats into the ring for the coveted position. One of the candidates running is biology and zoology major Ava Ayala. Despite only being a first year, she has served on the Student Peer Review Board alongside being the vice chair of the Diversity and Equity Affairs Committee. She is also a senator for the College of Natural Sciences. Ayala believes that the Senate is unkept and can do better about student outreach in the way the Senate handles their meetings. Presidential candidate Sammy Trout believes that these two candidates would be great picks for the speaker position. Throughout my time here, I've seen a lot of incredibly talented and passionate advocates, and these two are clearly some of the brightest we have seen in this Senate, said Sammy Trout, vice presidential candidate. But Trout isn't the only candidate running. Naomi?
Yeah, Bella, the second candidate, Hayden Taylor, is another first-year student studying political science and is a Colorado native. Taylor currently serves as the senator for the College of Liberal Arts and hopes to bring awareness to students about what the ASCSU does and bridge the gap between ASCSU and the CSU campus. Similar to many of the presidential candidates, one of Taylor's main goals is to change the U+2 laws. Now we have breaking news coming out of CSU football. Madeline Davis has the story. Madeline?
Thanks, Naomi. CSU starting running back Avery Morrow has been suspended from the team, the program announced earlier today. This comes 2 months after an altercation took place that led to his arrest. The alleged incident occurred when a person riding a skateboard placed his hand on the rear of Morrow's parked car. Morrow proceeded to exit the vehicle, tackle the person, and punch him 4 to 5 times. The arrest was originally filed as a misdemeanor, but because of the extent of the victim's injuries, it was bumped up to a second-degree assault, a Class 4 felony charge. If Morrow is convicted, he could serve 2 to 6 years in prison. Morrow's next scheduled court date is Thursday, April 20th, which happens to be the team's last practice before the spring game. Depth now becomes a concern at the running back position, so we'll just see how the coaching staff navigates the situation in the coming weeks. And that's all I have right now. But up next on CTV, hear about why we've seen so many Fort Collins businesses closing. Stay tuned.
Welcome back from the break. What if I told you that 40 CSU employees are selected to be part of an elite council that facilitates all communications across campus, promotes employee equality, and engages in over 20 community service projects each year? That's right, the Administrative Professional Council at CSU has a lot of power within the university. And now the APC has announced the upcoming executive committee members. The council is Matt Klein, who works in CSU's athletics department. Following suit is Trish Torres as vice chair, Justin Schwinderman Curtis as secretary, and Dennis Anderson will be taking on the role of treasurer. The new leaders are focusing on employee compensation, recruitment retention, and to create one unified voice for CSU employees.
As the month of March comes to an end, the Hughes Stadium land is yet to be bought by Fort Collins, despite the university's hope to close on the sale this month. But the purchase is just a few steps away. The City Council approved the $12.5 million needed for the city to buy the land. All that is left is secondary approval of the money to Fort Collins and to set a date to close. What to do with the land has been up to debate for many years. Conversations around selling the land to a home developer, building on the area, or keeping the space public open land has been circulating since 2018. But that was put to an end when a citizen-driven ballot initiative passed in 2021 and kicked off the sale of the land to Fort Collins. With limitations around what can be built, Larimer County Commissioner John Keefelaws urges the city to reach out to the community.
So ultimately, once they make the purchase of that property, which I think is going to happen probably within the next couple of months, they need to further engage the community and determine what are the best options.
The city has conducted surveys and focus groups in order to decide what the people of Fort Collins want to see there, but no decisions have been made yet.
In recent years, there has been a growing trend of businesses closing down in Fort Collins, leaving many locals wondering why. In a time of economic challenges, I had the opportunity of speaking with economists and a local business owner to discuss what these challenges are.
There's a lot of hard decisions that you have to make. Probably for me, the hardest is when I have to fire somebody.
So why do so many local businesses seem to be closing? Well, it's not as simple of an answer as you might think.
So there's a whole bunch of factors at play. I mean, it's a harrowing experience for a lot of these small businesses because it always seems like something coming from some different direction.
What is the hardest part of owning a business here? Is knowing you have no one else to count on but yourself, and then you get your employees and you have to work to train them.
It's the labor shortage, it's the increased cost of doing business, it's the slowing of the Colorado economy from where it was growing 4 or 5 years ago. And I think it's also from like the phasing out of all the COVID era supports that were in the economy.
As the Federal Reserve continues to raise interest rates, more pressure may be put on small businesses.
One of the things that we see is the Federal Reserve Bank has been increasing interest rates with the idea of cooling down the economy to get rid of inflation. With higher interest rates, economic activity slows down typically.
We've also seen, the Federal Reserve start to pretty significantly increase interest rates, that means that the cost of doing business for a lot of these small businesses, if they're operating with any kind of debt to support the business, has become far more expensive as well.
I have probably had 8 different small businesses in Fort Collins, so obviously I love it, but it is a hard town, very hard.
While it is sad to see so many beloved businesses leave Fort Collins, it is also exciting to see what new places will appear.
There has been an update on the future of Gen Z's favorite social media app. The fate of TikTok has been at the forefront of the app's users' minds since the company's CEO appeared before Congress last week. This Monday, Georgia sent a bill to their governor to bar the app from being used on state-owned computers. Once signed, it will be enacted into their legislation. The idea to ban the app comes from protecting user data from foreign adversaries, the countries such as China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia, to name a few. But the narrative of a TikTok ban may feel a bit like deja vu. Back in 2020, a similar ban was proposed during the Trump administration. Today's proposal mostly focuses on the app's use on government devices, but some question the Restrict Act's constitutionality regarding the free speech.